the heart of Africa, dreams will rise. Lift our Africa, we see the skies, guiding the way with knowledge as the key, shaping tomorrow strong and free. From the classrooms to the fields we sow, the seeds of learning, watch them grow. Together we stand, lifting each hand, building the future across the land. It's Africa, hey, we're celebrating all the light we shine, and the kingdom of excellence across the line. It's Africa, hey, together we rise as one we sing, celebrating education of excellence across Africa. For the leaders, the teachers, the minds so bright, Nissa Africa, you are guiding light in every corner, every town. Knowledge reigns, wearing the crown. Through the highs and lows we keep the flame, with unity and love we make a name. From east to west, north to south we see a future shaped by you and me. We're celebrating all the light we shine, and the kingdom of excellence across the line. It's Africa, hey, together we rise as one we sing, celebrating any education of excellence across Africa. We're the leaders, the teachers, the minds so bright, and the kingdom of excellence across the line. It's Africa, hey, together we rise as one we sing, celebrate.
Imagine a Nigeria where art and education converge to inspire a brighter future. Welcome to the NESA Africa Nigeria Awards, celebrating the transformative power of creative arts in education. Despite challenges, the creative arts sector holds immense potential to transform education, enrich cultural identity, and inspire innovation. Discover our award categories: Best Nollywood Production and Artist, Best Music Industry Contribution, Best Literature and Artworks, Visual Arts and Educational Impact, Performing Arts and Education Enrichment, Film and Media for Educational Advancement, Creative Advocacy and Educational Campaigns. This award celebrates cultural enrichment, inspires innovation, and fosters national pride. Awardees gain national recognition and collaboration opportunities. To nominate, visit www.nesaafricaawards.org/nominate. To cast your votes, visit www.nesaafricaawards.org/vote. Join us as we honor creativity.
This is EduAid Africa, funding education through partnerships. We turn ideas into action, scholarships, safer schools, teacher coaching, and jobs pathways. Your hosts, Uncle Ben and Hawa Alimi.
With keynote insight from Mr. Taiwo Ahinaje, Mr. Tumi Tiamiyu, Mr. Gabriel Olufumi Olotoye, and Dr. Charles Fojo.
We're live now. Let's begin.
Across Africa, hope rises every morning, but hope alone cannot build schools, train teachers, or power classrooms. The future depends on how we finance education together. This is episode 5 of the EduAid Africa series. This is the continent conversation. This is the turning point. Across Africa, the story repeats itself. From the dusty classroom of West Africa to the conflict-torn villages of Central Africa, from the overburdened school of East Africa to the silent rural settlements of the North and Southern regions. Children rise with hope. Teachers improvise with passion. Communities keep believing. But believing alone does not finance education. For decades, governments have carried the weight alone, stretching inadequate budget across expanding populations, insecurities, inflation, digital shift, and structural inequality. Yet, beyond government lies another force. Corporations building schools, diaspora's family paying fees, faith groups supporting learners, startups bringing innovation, and countless organizations quietly filling the gaps. But this effort are scattered, untracked, unstructured, and unsustained. Tonight, Africa asks a question, a very serious question. Should Africa shift part of its education finances from government budget into a structured CSR for education system, not as donation, but as national policy? This is the question shaping the EduAid Africa 2032 white paper, the Africa CSR for Education Blueprint, and the NESA Africa CSR Award 2025-2026. This is episode 5, where Africa build the future of education and finances. Good evening, Africa, and those joining us for diaspora. We welcome you to EduAid Africa webinar series, episode 5, broadcasting from NESA Africa TV and from the Santos Creation Educational Foundation Media. I'm Hawa Halimi, your moderator. Tonight, we are uniting CSR leaders, diaspora voices, policymakers, companies, non-government organizations, fund managers, and education advocates to confront the $40 billion annual funding gap. Our central question still remains: should Africa shift part of its education finances from government budget into structured CSR? And to guide our reflections this evening, we present 10 critical questions. Should CSR for education become mandatory national policy across African regions and diaspora-owned companies? What governance model guarantees transparency, government-led independent council or hybrid? How can diaspora contributions be structured into predictable yearly financing? What KPIs must CSR, diaspora, and grant-funded projects comply with? Should corporate and diaspora financing replace or co-finance government budgets? Can CSR plus diaspora close the 10 to 15% of the 40 billion naira annual financing gap? Should Africa adopt a continental CSR for education dashboard? What is the ideal structure for a Pan-African education financing architecture? And how do we prevent CSR for education from becoming politicized or mismanaged? And the final question will be, what 3 reforms must Africa adopt between 2026 and 2030 to make CSR plus diaspora sustainable? These questions are the backbone of EduAid Africa Episode 5 and the foundation of the EduAid Africa 2032 White Paper. Now, let's take the regional and diaspora analysis. From the West and East Africa, there are stories of rural poverty, NGO duplication, teacher shortages, and untapped potential. From the Central and North Africa, there are stories of conflict zones, underfunded rural communities, and low CSR alignment with education. Reports from South Africa and diaspora reveal that stories of structured CSR in South Africa, but uneven provincial distribution is what is happening there in South Africa. And diaspora's family are funding children silently, but without structure or recognition. That is why this evening, we are bringing you crops of professionals who will be doing justice to this question. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome our first speaker, who will be telling us how CSR becomes predictable financing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to me Tiamiyu, a finance and accounting professional with deep expertise in treasury management, financial control, business restructuring, and corporate finance across banking, telecoms, engineering, and renewable energy. He is a strategic financial thinker with a track record of driving growth and profitability. Let's welcome to me Tiamiyu this evening as it tells us how CSR becomes predictable financing. Welcome this evening, Mr. Tumi.
Thank you, moderator. It's nice to be on this platform, and I want to thank and appreciate those who are hosting this, and I'm happy to at least provide some insights into the questions and the way forward.
Thank you very much, sir, but we would love to see your face. And please, I would like every participants to on their camera so that we will be able to see those we are interacting with this evening.
Please confirm that you can see me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I would first of all comment on the current gaps that we have, in funding education today. As it's where Africa as a continent has a huge deficit, in education financing. And primarily it's because of the fact that over the years, I think the continent as a whole has not been able to fully come to terms with how they want to go about funding quality education for the citizenry. And typically, we would see that the way education is funded in Africa, especially in the sub-Saharan part of Africa, is way different from what is obtainable, in other advanced societies. For instance, you're going to look into the area of discussion today, which is CSR, and the role it plays typically, in helping, improve on this educational funding available to citizens of the continent of Africa. However, we need to be very careful. And it needs to be a trade-off. We need to strike a balance. And the balance needs to be struck between the extent at which we want to rely on CSR, as an avenue for funding education, and also the role that the public sector, that's government and government institutions, need to play, in ensuring that we have the right funding to carry on, these educational plans for citizens in the continent. If you permit me to mention, right, you would see that for any form of framework for spending, government funding still appears to be the most reliable and structured funding today. And because it's predictable, we will not want to say we are jettisoning the government funding structure. What I see, in my opinion, would need to be a combined approach at best. Yes, we can have governments and promote governments to formulate national policies, that will be essential to guide CSR, CSR efforts, and ensure that they align with the country's overall education goals. These policies will define how the CSR funds will be allocated, how they will be managed, and how they will be implemented in the system. We can also look at public-private partnerships, where you have a combination of government budgets, structured CSR, being the most effective model. Because, today we have a lot of deficiency inefficiency, in government's approach towards funding, not only education, but even infrastructure. So you find out that when you have the PPP model, where it's a public-private partnership, government funding combined with CSR, you find out that it provides a way, where you can add resources and expertise where they are most needed, through these partnerships. And also by prioritizing public investment. The primary responsibility for education remains with the government. That's the truth. Now, in my opinion, any CSR initiative should be viewed as a way to augment and not necessarily replace, public investment. But, we need to look at how we're going to ensure that we have a blended approach, to improve and provide quality education in Africa. Prince, am I still with you?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So again, like I was saying earlier, right? There are different arguments that we can take, and the arguments in favor of both government budget and also CSR as well. In my if you look at the arguments for strengthening government budgets, right, you will say that if you look at what government funding usually do, they pay the academia, that's the teachers, they use their funds. They are meant to use those funds to improve infrastructure and ensure equitable resource distribution. So, and that's why we will not naturally jettison government, because at times what government is supposed to do is to create a balance, especially in the equity distribution of resources. So if we predominantly weigh or tilt towards CSR, you may find out that because CSR initiatives have different focus. So some private individuals or large organizations may want to invest, for example, in gender-specific areas and say, okay, areas to promote female education. But the government is meant to now ensure that funding is provided to balance, these kinds of initiatives. And that's why I'm saying we can't jettison government spending for CSR. They need to work together. Also for long-term stability, you understand, because public funding, like I mentioned earlier, creates that platform that can ensure that you have, a consistent and precise way and source of funding education, as it were. Then for CSR, we could also argue to say that, look, the CSR, as it were, will be able to raise funding from, for example, people in the diaspora, large organizations. And to be honest, right, we have hundreds of billions of dollars that Africa as a continent can raise from the diaspora, from willing parties that want to invest in education and the growth of education in Africa. And these funds will definitely be these funds will definitely play a key role, in helping governments, fund education. So yes, there are strong arguments for structured CSR. Also they can be targeted, like I mentioned earlier, to meet specific needs. So apart from the gender-based one, which I said, it could be for technology infrastructure. So you could have a giant, in IT, for instance, or in AI, decide to support, in a CSR activity to develop that infrastructure. You could have teacher training programs or exchange programs, scholarships to specific groups, like I mentioned earlier. It could be gender specific, it could be tribe specific. So you could see some CSR activities that are targeted towards the less educated demographic in a particular area. And also, lastly, because CSR would leverage on private sector and also other non-governmental structures, is also a good way to promote a balance, in the whole structure. But like I mentioned earlier, is to create a balance between both the government spending and the private the CSR initiative through policies, that can create a framework where these two funding or these two areas can conveniently work together, to provide the results that we desire with respect to educational funding in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tumi, for that thoughtful insight. We'll see that prioritizing public investment is very important and the need for us to create a balance. Now, before we go to the next speaker, let's listen to this message on the upcoming Platinum Certificate Awards. Mariam, can you give us the message, please?
Platinum Certificate of Recognition, December 18, 2025. This December 18, African turned its spotlight on the institutions, leaders, and organizations whose service continue to shape the continent's future. The Platinum Certificate Recognition Awards honor those who build schools without applause, strengthen systems without fanfare, and champion education with integrity, sacrifice, and vision. From Research Institute, advancing knowledge, to faith-based organizations, nurturing values, to ministries, diaspora associations, libraries, and political leaders, expanding opportunity. These are Africa's quiet builders. Join us for a powerful 3-hour live showcase on NESA Africa TV, featuring continental correspondents, special panels, nominee stories, and the unveiling of Africa's leading institutional impact awards. December 18, 2020, the Platinum Certificate online recognition show, celebrating integrity, recognizing leadership, honoring those who keep Africans' education standing strong. Be part of history. Visit nesa.africa or email nominees@nesa.africa to participate, partner, or endorse.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that message. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our second speaker, and he is Mr. Gabriel Olufumi Olutoye. He will also be giving us his insight for 7 minutes. Gabriel Olufumi Olutoye is a seasoned development and management professional with over 15 years of progressive experience in project leadership, operations, management, human resources, and partnership development across humanitarian and development contexts in Nigeria. He has successfully led donor-funded programs supported by USAID, FCDO, and other international partners, implementing interventions that promote livelihood recovery, inclusive education, and community resilience. As the national lead and head of partnership in HRMDS Consulting Limited, Gabriel provides strategic oversight for multi-sectoral projects that drive social impact and sustainable growth. He managed the NNPC SNEPCO Livelihood Intervention Project in Borno State, overseeing end-to-end implementation and empowering over 2,000 individuals, including physically challenged beneficiaries, through entrepreneurship, animal husbandry, and cooperative development. Gabriel also spearheaded large-scale social demographic surveys across Kano, Kaduna, Jigawa, and Lagos states. Strengthening education ecosystem for non-state schools, he pioneered the establishment of public-private partnership forums, facilitating collaboration between governments, private sectors, and civil societies across actors, resulting in policy integration and improved stakeholders engagement. His expertise span strategic planning, HR management, procurement and compliance, organizational system development, and stakeholder coordination. A result-driven leader, Gabriel is passionate about inclusive development, institutional strengthening, and human capital growth. He is a member of the Nigeria Institute of Training and Development and the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, reflecting his professional commitment to excellence in human resources, development, and organization performance. Mr. Gabriel Olufumi, with your wealth of experience in public-private partnership, we would like you to educate us on partnerships that transform education. Welcome on board, sir.
Mr. Gabriel, please unmuted.
Sorry. sorry. I didn't know I had muted. I said, but I quickly want to put on my video so that people can see me, and then I'll put it off because I'm low on the battery on my system is low, so that I can conserve it for this period. So please pardon me. And thank you for that. While I do my short presentation, I'll be speaking briefly to data. I'll be speaking to the work that I had done in Kano, Kaduna, and Jigawa states on public-private partnership, and where we had initiated education financing for non-state schools. So the data I will be talking to is predominantly for Kano and Jigawa. So permit me to put up my video, please, and start. So what I would like to do is I want people to examine, to reflect, and this is actually a conversation. I will say that I'm aware that there is a CSR Bill 2023 that is in the National Assembly that is saying the Corporate Affairs Commission actually sponsoring to ensure that the bill is passed. However, my position will be that when it comes to education, health, protection, defense, these are core responsibilities of government. However, it is understood that government alone can't do all of this. So, but government should be seen as doing its best or our best at all times. We all know that we are all aware of this economic challenges that businesses are having in the country, and it's world over. So, and we are all aware of the way our system, our social system is in the country. I think one of those, sometime last week, I was speaking to Mr. Santos about how Nigerians can manipulate things. So if there's a law that says CSR should be mandated, I don't think we are doing justice to ourselves, right? I'm not sure we are doing justice to ourselves. It shouldn't be mandated. It's an ethical responsibility. So it's a personal commitment. So let me quickly go to this. Many school-age children remain out of school. Education quality in public sector are declining. Non-state schools feel a critical educational gap in the country because of failure on the part of government. The study that I led in Kano, Kaduna, and Jigawa, it's essentially focused on non-state schools in delivering education to undeserved children. And the main purpose of the survey was to gather socio-demographic data on unregistered non-state schools in Kano, Kaduna, and Jigawa to inform future policy and programming. Assessing the registration status of schools, the types of non-state schools, examining teachers' capacities and resource quality, identifying funding source. And I'm speaking to non-state schools because state schools are predominantly government responsibility, like I said. And it is the failure of government that have made so many private schools to come to light, to come to existence all over the world. However, some schools are established because for some obvious reasons, some private schools are established, and they're established to complement government. But if you go to rural areas where there are no infrastructures and you have population, you won't say, hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, sir.
We can hear you for me.
Tafunmi, we can hear you clearly. Please go on. Mr. Fumi.
NGOs are stepping up to bridge educational gaps and empower the next generation. Explore the category celebrating excellence in NGO-driven educational initiatives. Recognizing NGOs providing education to marginalized communities and improving access for out-of-school children. Honoring NGOs enhancing education quality through teacher training, curriculum development, and resource provision. Celebrating NGOs leveraging technology and unique methods to address educational challenges and promote learning. Winners receive national recognition, enhanced visibility, and opportunities for collaboration and funding. This award encourages best practices, fosters innovation, and drives progress towards educational excellence across Nigeria and Africa. Nominate the NGOs making a difference. Visit www.nesa.africa/nominate to submit your nominations. Your vote matters. Help us honor outstanding NGO contributions to education. Vote now at www.nesa.africa/vote. Together, let's recognize and support the NGOs driving educational change in Nigeria. Be part of the change with NESA Africa Nigeria.
It seems Mr. Fumi is having technical issues. Before you resolve that issue, let's call on the next speaker. But before then, let's take another message from Miriam. Miriam, give us the message on African Icon Blue Garnet Award.
African Icon Blue Garnet Award, January 28th, 2026. People
Hello,
don't
sir.
just
I think my
transfer.
network is back.
Don't just transfer.
No, it seems Mr. Fumi is back.
My network is back.
Okay, sir.
So, okay. Sorry for that. It's my network. It just went up. Okay, so essentially, the study was carried out because there are too many non-state schools in Nigeria, and there was the funding to carry out studies of non-state schools operating up north. You know, let's not forget there have been issues of insecurity. There are schools, there are different categories of non-state schools. And when I mean non-state schools, these are private schools, essentially private schools, Quranic schools and faith-based schools and all of that, and the conventional private schools. Now, we have to look at their funding source. We have to look at quality issues around quality assurance. Are they delivering on appropriate educational standard? Are they offering quality, or are they just teaching what they know what best to do? And at the same time, there was this set objective too, to ensure that we want to see how some of the Quranic school can integrate numeracy and literacy into their curriculum, you know, so, and with government support. So we looked at a few of these private school associations. So I'm going to give these statistics around, for example, a few of membership of some of the private schools in Kano, for example. There are about three. I think there is NAPS, there is OPSIN, and there is AFED. That is AFED is for extremely low income earners. Association for Low Income Earners School, Private School Association or something. That's AFED. And now we realize that about 313 school owners belongs to no association. That is, these schools are in existence, but they are not registered. They don't belong to any body, any professional body. Government know they are just there, but government is offering no support, and so there's nobody ensuring the quality of their delivery. Right? This figure represents 79.4% in the states. Right? 333 schools not yet approved. Now, I'm saying this, permit me, because of my time. I'm trying to be here and there because of my time. 333 schools are not yet approved. So, what are these? If you have a school in a state that is teaching, that is to impact knowledge, and they are not approved, who ensures the quality? It means that the owners of this school are either passionate about what they are doing, seeing children just loaf around, and they decide to bring them together, or the person actually wants to be a partner in education and he doesn't have the resources. So, you understand, he doesn't have the resources to do. 61 schools are in the process of approval, right? Now, we discovered that there are registration challenges. So, about 44.4 lack adequate facilities. Government registration protocols is burdensome. And about 41.9 says they are not interested because of the burden of government's protocols on them, right? About 144 of these schools have PTA, about 72 have SBMC. PTA is Parent Teacher Association, and SBMC School-Based Management Committee, which is largely being supported by communities. Now, there's a law. There's a should I call it? Is it a policy now or a law? I don't know which to call it now. That when school is in your community, it is owned by community. However, it's still government also funded. That is in public school in quotes. But schools, education generally is owned by community because it is community's children who goes there to learn. Now, 22.8 have development plans. That is school development plans. So they know, okay, they are looking at, these are the kind of things we want to teach our children. I haven't said all this. Now, because of my time, this short statistics these short statistics I've given shows that there are challenges in education that governments alone cannot take care of, right? And there have been budgetary provision on education across federal and state, yet no results. So before we begin to talk about mandating CSR to support education, we feel government need to sit up. CSR should be a supplementary intervention on education. It should not be mandated. I think that's where I'm going. My work in this regard has been extensive. We've had to work with some financing institutions that have education focused. There are institutions that are funding education. But you find that most of these private school owners do not have the mandatory requirement to access funding, which makes it very difficult.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fumi. I'm sorry to cut you short, but you have the opportunity to conclude your presentation during the panelist discussion when you are asked to make your contribution, sir. Let me welcome our next speaker, who is the third speaker and is joining us from Ghana, Dr. Charles Douglas Opoku Fojo, the chairman and group CFO of Numeric Group International. Dr. Charles embodies a blend of British upbringing and Ghanaian heritage. His passion lies in catalyzing African transformation from within through knowledge, unwavering dedication, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. He currently holds a doctorate degree in business administration from the University of America. He is a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist, a C-level executive with over 2 decades of experience, a financial expert with over 21 years experience in global trade. Having spent a significant part of his career in London financial district, Dr. Charles moved to Africa to continue to customer-focused investment banking. His achievement cut across various asset classes, including telecommunications, transportation, energy, oil and gas, mining, and construction. His dedicated work ethics has earned him widespread recognition, including prestigious cross-continental nominations and awards in realm of business and philanthropy. With a Doctor of Business Administration from University of Africa, Mr. Charles is a staunch Christian and a Pan-Africanist who believes there is a need for economic and political reintegration among African countries and avidly advocates for the promotes local indigenous content and entrepreneurs. He is passionately driven towards raising African leaders through transformative teaching. By his passion, he has been a guest speaker on many acclaimed platforms. Through teaching kingdom principles, Dr. Charles is currently engaged in the task of enlightening the African mindset by imparting knowledge about the vast possibilities available for us. He is handing out keys to unlock doors of potential. With this purpose of life, he was recently acknowledged and awarded the President Joseph R. Biden Lifetime Achievement Award in the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Charles as he speaks on structuring diaspora remittance for education. Welcome on board, Dr. Charles.
Great and awesome evening to everybody. When I hear a lot of accolades being thrown at me, it really humbles me, because these are labor of love, a passion for humanity, and great passion for Africa. So I just give all the glory to God for giving us the ability to be able to have, because you can't give what you don't have. And such as I have is what I, as best as possible, I try and give back to humanity. When it comes to the CSR, I mean, there are a lot of things that as a company we have done. Lumiere Group International, we are located in about 10 countries now, including UAE. In fact, in UAE, we have 2 companies, one in Abu Dhabi, one in Dubai, licensed to trade in oil and gas. But we are in finance and commodities. Depending the jurisdiction that we find ourselves, like in Kenya, we concentrate solely on agriculture. In Nigeria, we have fuel, because we are afraid of actually the land to actually farm in Nigeria, because you don't know who you are going to meet out there in the farm. So until I think we are properly prepared using technology, we will stick to oil and gas at present in Nigeria. But we also do fuel additive, natural fuel additive, in order to be able to help reduce the emission that the oils that we sell. So we have a natural fuel additives that reduce emission up to 65%, giving a fuel save of almost about 25 to 35% in Nigeria, or some of the what we call it, the higher ppm fuels, and even with Shell V-powered fuels, we are able to reduce it by 12%. Now, just a little bit about what we do as a company, and the passion that, as a chairman of the company and of the group, we try to encourage our workers and our trading partners to help contribute in regards to CSR awards. In I think 2023, we won the CSR award for the top 100 companies. This includes all the mining companies in Ghana. We won the CSR award. We are very, very practical. It's not just about throwing money. It's also about looking at, so flooding in an area, for example, what is causing the flooding, getting engineers to do assessment, creating a dam, and looking at each local villager who has been affected by this flooding, and giving them real cash, not only your usual mats, rice, and all those things, but giving them 1,000 cedis each for every local, every villager, which honestly brought a lot of attention to for our company in that region. Now, what's the role of corporate responsibility in education? I mean, look, this is a key. As a Pan-Africanist, our main focus, or my main focus, is not about fighting the West. My main focus is about the emancipation of the African minds. So the emancipation of the African minds is pivotal if Africa and Africans are to be able to take our seat, as in the spiritual realm, Africa is supposed to dominate right now. If we're ever going to do that, we need to be able to take our responsibility seriously, from government to private individuals to religious leaders. We must be able to endeavor to educate. Education both spiritually and also physically. What do we need to do to be able to educate the average African to be able to express the deep power that we possess to be able to turn our continent around? I use the word power because without energy, we will not be able to make any difference within our jurisdiction. Energy. Without energy, you cannot get up from your bed. We cannot go out and do anything. Do you understand that? So very, very key. Our focus for us is, I will talk about what Lumiere have done and what we are doing, some of the investment that we've also done in regards to education and in the field of CSR. So Lumiere have just partnered with two institutions, one in America and the other one in Ghana. The Ghana one, we are shareholders, and both of them actually, we are shareholders to make sure that we develop an educational digital platform. What is education digital platform? What it does is that instead of children being taken out of school, like what is happening in Nigeria, in Kwara State at the moment, the children shouldn't what we call lose out in education. If there's a digital education platform, they can still be learning whilst even at home. So they will not be shortchanged in terms of education to events that has nothing to do with them. So we have spent a lot of money in developing this system, which we have been looking to deploy in Nigeria. We're trying to speak to one or two people. We signed a university in Ghana that we will be employing that system in January. It's being used in Zimbabwe. And the whole government in Central African Republic have agreed to be able to utilize it. What it does is that it allows, in some areas, in some culture, they don't want the young girls to participate in education, in a mainframe education. We can provision of laptops, provision of tablets, internet. The child can actually stay home and still be able to be educated. And these are some of the things that we have done. But if you look at this holistically, one of the things that, if you're talking about public and private roles within the education financing, you are financing not just only what we call it, the necessary platform, but you also have to look at scholarship. You have to look at grants. You have to also look at teacher training and capacity building, because the teacher can only teach what he or she knows. You understand that? But right now, we need a different holistic developmental approach, in structuring what I call the CSR. Now, in order to get CSR to really be effective and to get more private companies like ourselves to engage, is to also have a dialogue with the government. The government have to make it conducive for CSR. Well, it could be tax efficiency in regards to the government. It has to be a a policy and a regulation to establish a legal and a policy framework that will be able to help, private companies to donate more. This may be a minimum percentage of profit for CSR from individuals, companies, and corporates, and even mandating the church that usually do not pay usually pay taxes. You understand? So the only thing that we could get the churches to do, the churches, the mosque, the Hindu temples, anybody that come out and say that they are the Africanism, whatever spiritualist, is to make sure that they contribute 1% of all revenues they collected in order to pay back to the government, to the society, to educating us. That this is a novel idea that we can actually push, and then the government, I'm sure once we push that across to the government, they will now see that the huge revenue. I mean, look at the revenue, both the churches, the temples, the chief imams, and the mosque, the kind of donation that they get every year. So it is one of the things that we can look at. We can look at priority areas. I mean,
Mr. Charles, thank you very much. Your time is fast spent, but you have the opportunity to continue your discussion during the panelist discussion. But I would just like to inform you that your company has been nominated for the NESA award. It's true, listening to your achievement, that somebody have decided to nominate your company for the award. Thank you very much, sir. Let's now welcome our final speaker, Mr. Taiwo Ahinaje. Mr. Taiwo is an educationist, teacher, researcher, author, training and development professional, and public affairs analyst with over 15 years of professional experience. He holds a bachelor's degree in educational management and certificate in data processing and management information system from the University of Ilorin, the Better by Far University, and a master's degree in manpower training and development from the University of Lagos, Akoka, Lagos State. Mr. Taiwo is an Elamo scholar, a member of Youth African Leaders Initiative Network, and a fellow of the Institute of Strategic Procurement and Resource Management in Nigeria. He is the author of... Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. He is the author of Strategic Approach to Student Academic Challenges. As a trained professional, he has coordinated and facilitated various training sessions with management staff, teachers, and young leaders as professionals and community development initiative. Apart from his strong belief in active involvement in humanitarian services, through volunteering, he is also passionate about empowering the minds of adults and inspiring the youth, especially students, through training sections, intellectual engagement, and community development initiatives. This earned him an award from the Global Education Award in 2024. Mr. Taiwo is currently the managing consultant of Educare Strategic Solution, an education consulting and support service firm. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Taiwo as he gives us his brief this evening. Welcome, Mr. Taiwo.
Thank you so much, the moderator. Good evening, everyone. Let me be sure if you can hear me loud and clear.
Can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm really happy to be a participant to talk about a topic like this. It's very, very necessary we discuss an issue that has to do with funding or financing education, especially on the African continent. Different issues are coming up and competing with education when it comes to funding. One of such is the current security crisis in Nigeria. And it has become something that is distracting government at all levels from giving attention to education. In the past few years, security or defense, got the largest chunk of our national budget. And like the current one, 2025, the budget for defense and security is 10%, and education got 7.4%. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same case in Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, South Sudan, Libya, and other African countries where they have a security crisis. But it's necessary we talk about this. But I would like to make my position clear from the beginning. I will not be an advocate for the kind of framework or policy to establish or institutionalize another layer of obligation on corporate organizations in the name of social responsibilities. You know, if you consider it critical, you know that corporate organizations statutorily or mandatorily, they pay tax or taxes in different forms. In fact, corporate organizations in Nigeria pay as much as 30% of their annual profits, you know, depending on the size of the company. So if we are institutionalizing or establishing or suggesting another layer of statutory obligation for them apart from tax, I'm afraid it's going to create some inconveniences for them. They have other things that they do. They have shareholders. And in fact, most of these corporate organizations we have in Nigeria, they embark on this corporate social responsibility in form of programs, meaningful projects that are transforming different communities, community development initiatives, infrastructural facilities for schools, training for teachers, scholarships for students, and other wonderful initiatives by these corporate organizations. So they do this discretionarily, they do this voluntarily, and of course they are actually doing their best. But for us to suggest or propose that there should be another layer of statutory obligations in form of CSR, I'm not going to be an advocate, you know, for that. But I would make it clear to you that, see, it is not negotiable. Government must finance and fund education. Like one of the speakers said earlier, that education, health, and security, these are areas that are not negotiable when it comes to the responsibilities of government, and government must not abdicate its roles in these areas. However, corporate organizations can come in, intervene, you know, at will. They shouldn't be under any obligation or compulsion to make sure that they feel any part of this. You know, they have internal procedures that they embark upon when they want to implement this. And United Nations Education, Cultural, and Scientific Organization, UNESCO, has simplified this by telling developing countries to earmark between 10 and 15% of their annual budget for education. It is just as simple as that. But unfortunately, Nigeria and some other African countries, we are yet to meet this benchmark. You know, the best we've had was 2015 when Nigeria had 9%. The current one is 7.4%. And it clearly shows how, you know, serious or how government has prioritized education. Government cannot abdicate its rules when it comes to education. For other sectors or other programs, most times we feel government is spending, but when it comes to education, government is not actually spending, government is investing. And when it comes to investment, you know, you go the whole hog to get money to invest based on the fact that you know that there are other benefits or there are eventual benefits you will get at the end of the process. So I will not be an advocate that there should be a law or a policy to place any obligation or statutory responsibility on corporate organizations when it comes to funding or financing education in Nigeria. I will always see government can source for money. Okay, let me give one of, maybe I'll say that this subsequent, but let me just chip it in. We can have this model that we use in funding infrastructural facilities and other components in tertiary institutions under this Tertiary Education Tax Act or Tertiary Education Tax Fund, which of course mandates that every registered corporate organization in Nigeria should make 3% of their annual income and annual profit available to fund tertiary institutions, that is public tertiary institutions, in the aspect of facilities or infrastructure facilities, training of lecturers, and research. So this is also one of the benefits we get from this corporate organization. So, and they do this, and it has been a reliable way of funding tertiary education in Nigeria. However, it doesn't cover other levels of education. So if I will recommend this for other African countries, or if I will subscribe that other African countries should buy into this idea, I would just say they should expand it to cover other levels of education. But in Nigeria, it only covers and it's fine. However, every initiative designed to fund or equip our educational system always leaves out the issue of remuneration for staff. Like this Tertiary Education Trust Fund, it doesn't have provision for salaries and allowances, especially when it comes to how things are being conducted in tertiary institutions. Only that under the TET fund, lecturers who are given opportunity to go on training may just get training allowances. But when it comes to the consolidated salaries given by the government to academic and non-academic staff, you know, all these initiatives don't cover them. And the agitation of academic and non-academic staff members in our schools have always been around salary. You know, we all know that, you know, our lecturers or academic staff in tertiary institutions in Nigeria are not well paid like their counterparts in other African continents. So, but we need to think about how government will take up its role to finance education appropriately without leaving any stone unturned, so that there won't be recurrent issues. And the only option we will be looking at is to place more burden on corporate organizations. For me, it's not going to end well, and it will be very, very unfair if we place statutory responsibilities that government should take up on private organizations or corporate organizations. Government should look inward. Government can get loan from IMF, from World Bank, from corporate organizations, financial organizations across the globe, and use the fund to finance education, because it is investment. It is investment. If you look at it, there is a strong correlation. We're talking about insecurity. There's a strong correlation between insecurity and illiteracy, or insecurity and poor standard of education. So if we are talking about insecurity now, directly or indirectly, you will realize that we have some things that we have left undone in the education sector. So every issue in every society, directly or indirectly, you will trace it to poor or inadequate standard of education. And if government can actually educate its citizenry, of course, it will be a great reward for the nation. So for me, I would just say government should look at ways to explore. Someone talked about PPP, public-private partnership initiative. It's working. It's working. You know, when I was in the University of Ilorin in 2008, when the school management realized that there was accommodation crisis, you know, housing crisis on campus, they invited corporate organizations to come and invest on a model they called Build, Operate, and Transfer, BOT. The corporate organizations will build hostels or halls of residence and ask them to manage it for a period of time, maybe 10, 20 or more years, depending on the agreement. And when the contract ends, they hand it over to the school management, and the school management will continue to run it. So public-private partnership would work, but it doesn't mean government should abdicate its role in funding or financing education. It's not negotiable. Education, health, and security. These are key social services that government must not shy away from. You know, there are areas that government can invest in because they are social services, investing with no expectation of getting profit or getting financial reward at the end of the day, because they have so much to do about the health of the nation and the future of the nation's citizens. So those are my input at this moment. You know, if there are other segments, contribute more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo, for that great submission. Government has its own responsibility, and it is their duty to play it as expected. Now, before we go for the panelist discussion, because this is the most interesting part, because I want everybody to participate in this panelist discussion, let's have your contribution on this issue. Before we begin the panelist discussion, let's go on a break. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's work together to unpack Africans' financing future together. And our panelists today, we have Ms. Catherine Asego, a senior advocacy officer of Fairway Africa, financing education through CSR. We also have Mrs. Comfort Shuaibu. She is the lead educational consultant at Safe Evans Consult, with experience in teaching learning in Nigeria and diaspora across different curricula. She is a special need advocate who integrates monastery method and edtech tools, and has delivered adult education and organized affordable learning programs for local communities. Our work focuses on inclusive, practical solutions that address gaps in education access and funding. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start the panelist discussion. But before then, I would like each participant to introduce themselves one after the other. I want to know those we have in the house. And please let me know where you are participating from. Hello? Please introduce yourself, your name, and where you are participating from. Well, since nobody is ready to do the introduction, let's start the panel discussion proper. Let me invite Ms. Catherine Asego for the first question. Okay, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Zulfa.
My name is Zulfa. My name is Zulfa Yunus. I'm participating from Kano, Nigeria.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Next. Hello. Now, let's start the panelist discussion proper. The first question I will ask is, should CSR for education become mandatory national policy across African region and diaspora-owned companies? What is your opinion on this? Let's start with Catherine Asego. What's your opinion on this question, ma? Catherine. Well, maybe she's having technical issues that we are all experiencing this evening. Before she comes up, let's invite Ms. Comfort Shuaibu for her own contribution. Should CSR for education become mandatory national policy across African regions and diaspora-owned companies? What is your opinion on this? Please unmute your mic and make your contribution, ma. As they are still trying to connect with us this evening, let me call on Mr. Tumi for him to make his contribution. Mr. Tumi, are you still here with us? I know you have an appointment this evening. Okay, thank you very much.
No, I'm still here with you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry my video may not be that clear because I'm actually already en route to another meeting, but I would try to do this. I put on the light in the car. So, yeah, the question was, if Africa should shift